Hello everyone and welcome back to the Flourish and Thrive podcast.
I'm Alice.
And I'm Emily.
And we are two corporate girlies living in the city, just trying to navigate life in our 20s, and we're just on a journey of growing into the physically, emotionally, spiritually best versions of ourselves.
Exactly, just leveling up, trying to get through life, trying to be the best, like you said, well put, best versions of ourselves.
And we'd love if you would come on this journey with us.
Yes, for sure. If you want to follow along with us, we have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, all at Flourish and Thrive Pod. If there's anything you would like us to cover in future episodes, please do let us know. Slide into our DMs. We would love to hear from you. But yeah, should we get into it?
Let's get right into it. Okay, so today's episode is a fun one. We're talking all about female friendships and making friends in your 20s and making friends in adulthood and why that can be tricky for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think that, if you're someone who feels like you maybe don't have a lot of friends in your adult life, or you feel like you're not really close to a lot of people, in particular women, that's totally normal. Like, you are not alone. Like, I have been there. Oh my God, boy, have I been there. I think it's so common.
I think, and it's so hard, especially, like, you kind of go through this stage when you're in school. Like, you're forced into these, like, friendship group. Not forced, but, like, you pick your friends and you've got your friends, and it's almost so much easier to make friends in school. But then in your 20s, like, you kind of, like, you've got your work life, but then you're like, I want to keep these relationships professional with these people. Like, it's hard to, like, make new friends and explore those friendships in your adult life.
For sure. Yeah, you're definitely right. And, like, in school and in uni, you have a common thread with these people. Like, you see them every day, you're doing the same things, you have, like, a history with them almost, and you've built that up over the years. Whereas in your 20s, in your adult life, you're just sort of scattered all over the country or wherever you are, and there's no longer that common thread. So you have to, and there's no longer that common ground where you frequently meet either, unless you're at work. But that's
you really
kind
have to put the effort in.
Yeah.
Like, with your friendships, you really have to be like, okay, no, let's actually put the effort in and meet up and, like, let's do this.
Yeah. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
So we kind of wanted to split this episode into sort of two main segments. The first one is going to be all about why it's so difficult to make friends in your 20s, especially as a woman with other women.
Yeah.
And then in the second part of the episode, we're going to just give some tips on how to make female friends in your adult life.
Yeah, and just how we've kind of talk about our experiences a bit.
Yeah.
I feel like we love to chat, obviously. We started a podcast, so we're going to chat about our own experiences.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so let's get right into it. How have your experiences surrounding female friendships been up until this point in your life, excluding adult life? Before, in school and in uni, what do you think?
I think in terms of school, like, I mean, so Alice and I went to an all-girls school, so I feel like that had, like, a huge part in our upbringing, right?
Big time, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like it made us seem so, like, I feel like, I'm not sure if this is the same for you, but, like, it made boys seem so, like, exciting.
Oh my God.
And it just made almost every other woman feel like a bit of a competition, and I feel like we want to speak about this a bit more. But like, going to an all-girls school and being thrown into this kind of environment where it was just a lot of that, and I can't explain it, but it was just a lot of very competitive energy.
That's
especially
so
at our school. I feel we had a very competitive school. Like,
we really did.
They were great, but that was the environment we were in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel very, very lucky to have gone to the school that we went to, but there was definitely a very cliquey energy.
Yeah.
Like, it was, this is this group, this is that group, and they don't cross. Like, whereas I think that's a bit different in mixed schools or boys' schools. It all kind of seems to be a bit more...
It kind of diffuses that energy. I don't know why. It's a different vibe. Like, I feel like boys aren't in their own head much sometimes.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
I think it was a lot of ambitious girls fueled by a lot of ambitious parents.
Yeah.
And everyone had such high expectations, and everyone was just trying to fit into certain social cliques and sort of just be accepted. And then once you found your clique, like, you weren't really allowed to move. Which kind of gave me a bit of a warped perception of how female friendships are.
I definitely understand that kind of part where it's like when you have your but when you have your friendship group, and it's like almost seems a bit forbidden to go off and be friends with, like it was weird because I I feel like I'm quite a sociable person. Like I was always quite sociable growing up and in school. And I feel like it was almost like there were some people in school where it was just, you would get looked at weirdly if you'd be mixing with loads of different people, and it'd be like, why? Like in adult life, it's so normal to do that.
Yeah, that is the great thing about friendships in adult life, is that everyone is friends with everyone, and like there's just not there's just not the sort of space to form sort of cliquey friendship groups anymore. They just sort of dissipate and everyone's friends together.
I think you can get that sometimes though at work. Like there are certain work situations. I'm very lucky and I work with all males, and all of my team, in fact, women and males, are lovely. I feel like I'm very lucky in that respect, but I feel like a lot of people can get that same schoolgirl energy at work. So
that's interesting that you said I'm very lucky I work with males. Yeah, I don't know.
The women on my team are lovely as well, but like I do find it easier working with males. I can't lie to you.
Yeah, I do think there's I think a lot of us girls, especially growing up, kind of preferred, I mean, I know I did. There was for the longest time, I was like, oh, I'm not really a girl's girl. I prefer being friends with guys. And I know that sounds like, oh, I'm such a pick-me girl. Oh my God. I'm just not like other girls. Oh God. But yeah, I just, for the longest time, had this belief in my head that like girls were too much drama. And it was, you know, I was sort of threatened by other girls as well and a bit insecure around them. Whereas with guys, it just felt easier. But now that I've like kind of worked on that and healed that, I'm now like such a girl's girl. Like I just love hanging out with girls. Yeah, I feel like I've done a full 180. We wanted to talk a little bit today about the sister wound, and that I think is the main reason why it's so hard. A lot of women find it so hard to make good quality female friendships.
What is the sister wound? I don't think I've actually ever heard of it, to be honest with you.
Right.
So you're teaching me here. Yeah.
So it's basically, it's a kind of collective wound that all women kind of carry, like a trauma, like a sort of response in us, some sort of deeply ingrained beliefs from growing up in a patriarchal society that's like pitting women against other women. Like, you know, it's everywhere. Like in films, there's always like the nemesis of the main character girl. There's always another woman like competing. We just it's sort of ingrained deep within us that like we're all in competition, and to like see other women as a threat rather than, you know, like lifting each other up.
Have you read the book Invisible Women?
No. I've heard of it.
I've got it literally on my bookshelf there. I want to read it, but it seems like that's something around that. I've not read it yet, but it seems like that's something around it. It kind of exposes the gender biases in society. So it's saying that someone at work told me this, that the temperature in offices are set to a men's body temperature most of the time. Yeah, so that's why women always feel like I'm freezing in the office all the time. Like I'm
fuming.
Always, no, but it's the thing. So like, because men's body temperature naturally runs a bit higher than women.
Yeah.
So when they put on the AC, air conditioning, but when they put on the aircon, they put it on higher because it's set to a men's body temperature. Apparently, that's from the book. I haven't actually read it. But that's what someone at my work told me is in that book.
Oh my God, because in my office I'm always freezing, and then all the boys are like, no, I'm fine, don't know what you're on about.
But that's, so like, so I think you would really, I mean, I feel like it's going to bring out my angry feminist.
Yeah, I'm already fuming.
But, like, that book is kind of exposes the gender biases in society.
Wow.
It just made me a point that you were talking about.
Yeah, that's pretty much, that's very similar to what we're talking about here. Common symptoms of the sister wound include judging other women. Like, name, if you can think of a time that you've done any of these things, then raise your hand. Judging other women, excluding other women, jealousy around other women, feeling insecure or intimidated around them, and feeling like you can't really trust other women or like open up to them. I feel like we've all kind of experienced at least one of those things.
I feel like, definitely. It's hard. It sounds horrible, but it's hard not to. Like, it's when the ego gets involved and all of that. Yeah. But like, it is hard, and I don't know. Yeah,
it's just a result of the society we live in. We live in a society. But yeah, it's everywhere to kind of think that women are. It's instilled in us.
Pitted against each other. Yeah. It shouldn't be that way.
No. I mean, so we all kind of experience this sort of sister wound within us to a point. I think it's very rare to have someone who's completely healed and doesn't have any of those. I mean, I'm sure we've all felt that kind of issue, one of those kind of symptoms at some point in our lives. the first step to kind of overcoming this sort of thing is really just to like acknowledge how it shows up for you and your friendships. Like, take a note of how you feel around other women when you're hanging out with them. Do you feel like you need to constantly be getting in all the cool stuff you've been doing to compete with them, or do you feel like you need to look really, really good to try and just because you know they're going to look great,
like look a certain way?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like you're having to put on this kind of like more makeup, or like put on this a little bit of a persona almost, like to be in the presence of someone else?
Yeah.
I feel like that's so important as well, like to notice how you feel around people.
For sure. Energy doesn't lie. Yeah, so that first step is really like just examine your current situations with women. How do you behave, and sort of thinking about how it shows up for you. And then can you sort of trace that back to any sort of incidences in your childhood, growing up, in school, around if you had siblings growing up. How
is it for you with like, because you've got a brother, how is that for you living in like a household where it's like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like probably quite like there's masculine energy there?
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons why growing up I always identified as, oh, I'm just one of the boys, I'm like not really a girl's girl, is because I didn't other than going to a girls' school, like my family was very sort of masculine energy focused. Growing up with a brother, I just kind of felt like it was easier to I always knew it felt more natural to me to interact with the boys. But I think part of that was low-key, especially as I sort of grew up a bit, like in like high school and then in uni, it was more like low-key wanting to get attention from boys. It wasn't like I want them to be my good quality confidant and close friend.
It's like I want
attention from
the boys to like make me like.
It was literally like I'm not like other girls. Like it was so cringe.
Like I want the boys to make me feel validated in the way like, oh, if they think I'm good, then I must be good. Like it's validating my feelings.
Yep.
Yeah.
And once again, that's kind of what the issue we're talking about here, and that like this society we live in is like we all need to be competing for the boys' attention.
But it's, and I feel like that's such a huge thing. Like a lot of girls do tend to compete for guys, and
it happens. It's so common. We just enter into this competition that like we really
don't need to have.
We don't need to have at all.
We should be like taking each other like up. So there was this quote from I can't remember who on earth said it. I need to start remembering these quotes, like who said them, because I feel really bad like not giving like the credit where credit is due, because I did not come up with these thoughts. But it's like we need to be bringing other people up. So it's like a lot of women always feel like they're in constant competition with each other, like in the society. So like in business, they're always like trying to tear each other down. But there's this quote where it's like, the elevator to success is lonely if you don't bring anyone with you. I think it's along those lines, but it's basically saying that like if you're not bringing people up and you're not bringing people with you, like on the journey of leveling up or whatever, like flourish and thriving, all that cringy love it stuff. But like if you're not bringing people up with you, it's just going to be awful. Like you're going to be lonely, you're going to be just feeling bad all the time. And then especially if you've got that added layer of like beating other women down, it's gonna feel even more rubbish in the end. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And like I think a lot of us like just do this on an unconscious level, and that's okay. Like we're not saying if you've done any of this stuff then you're bad. Like it's so ingrained into us, and it's just
I know for sure I've definitely like I've done it like that, like I've done that. Like for sure I've definitely been that horrible person.
I think we all have at times, and it's well, it's okay because now we're going to acknowledge it and we're going to heal it. And so I think looking back for me, I think I up until very recently was like I really struggled to connect with girls. And I think it's because from going to a cliquey school, like, and growing up and watching like Disney Channel movies, I was very aware that there was like the popular girls And then there was me, who was not one of the popular girls. I was, I always thought I was kind of a bit of like the weird loser one.
Like High School Musical-ish-esque, where it's like Sharpay and Ryan and these popular kids. And then like Gabriella's like the girl who comes in from another school.
Yeah,
like that vibe.
She's like the awkward one, like doesn't really fit in.
But then she's the one who's like the main character.
Yeah, I love that for her. God, what a film, honestly. But yeah, so I carried this belief with me, definitely through university as well. Like, I was in the cheerleading team at uni, but have I talked about this in the pod before? No,
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, so I was in the cheerleading team at university, which I was so excited about. But I always had this feeling that like these girls are too cool for me. They are just humouring me. Like, they were lovely, lovely girls, but all the time I had this belief in my head that was so untrue. That was like, they can't wait for me to stop talking to them. Like they're way too cool for me. They're just hanging out with me just like to humour me.
That breaks my heart.
I know.
Actually breaks my heart to hear that.
Looking back, I'm like, girl,
poor little Al.
I know. So yeah, I definitely noticed that showing up there. If only I'd kind of had the awareness to notice it back then, I'd realised that those beliefs weren't true. They were just from past conditioning, from those films I watched growing up, from the the cliquey school. Like, the thoughts that come up in those moments, they're just from past conditioning. They're not facts. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to follow them and believe that they're true.
Like, I think it comes back to a lot of the time where your thoughts, an interesting thought can pop into your head, but you have no control over that thought. And that's a lot of the time just like deep within you, something rooted in you, what you're thinking, and that's the way you've been conditioned, essentially.
Yeah.
So what I've found is so super interesting. You can apply this to anything, like healing the sister wound, all of that, but you can apply this to loads of things where a thought comes up and you're like, that's an interesting thought, but that's not what I want to be thinking. So you can just, you've got to, it's literally, we're going to do a whole episode, I think, on the power of now, where we'll probably reread it and like really ingrain into it. But he speaks about like being the watcher of your thoughts and like actually thinking and be like, well, that's interesting, but no, that's not what I'm here for.
That observing it non-judgmentally, just like, oh, it's just a thought. It's not got any power over me if I don't give it power over me. I heard on another podcast that like you can't choose your first thought, but you can choose your second thought. Like, your first thought is that automatic programming from your past experiences and your conditioning. You can't choose that. You can just be aware of that. And then if that thought doesn't serve you, well, now you can choose again.
You can choose a second thought.
Yeah.
You can choose to go a different way. It's like with healing the sister wound, like we're going back to how like how you feel about friendships and how you are in friendships. If you've got that initial thought of like, oh, I'm seeing this girl's competition, look at her, she's doing really well, but I need to be there, like, oh, I should, like, do you know what I mean? You should be having those negative thoughts. Like, you can think that thought to start with, and then you'd be like, actually no, like, how empowering is that she's doing that? Like, maybe we can like network and like bring each other up.
Yeah,
do you know what I
sure.
mean? Like, you can have a completely different thought about it.
That's so true. Yeah, like for me, if I'm ever sort of like hanging out with girls, particularly like, not you, but like other girls that I already know, that like I was when I was, right in the energy of feeling I'm the weird one, blah blah blah. Sometimes
uni kind of time,
yeah. Sometimes I'll catch myself and be like, actually she's getting bored, she thinks I'm a bit weird, blah blah blah. And then I catch myself and I'm like, no, you deserve to be here, you're interesting, they are your friend. Like, don't believe those initial thoughts, they're not true. I know, this is I'm being really open and honest here.
No, but therapy session, like, it's good to get these like thoughts out and everything.
Yeah, and this is it's
I feel like so many people have these kind of internal monologues that are just saying like negative things about how they like how they fit into certain friendship groups. I know I have that as well. Like, even in my own friendship group, that my friends are probably thinking like, oh god, she's that weird one who does social media a little bit. But then if not, most of the time, all of my friends have always said to me like, oh yeah, no, you should keep going with that. It's really cool. Like, you really love it and you're really into it and you're really good at it.
Yeah.
And like, they've said that to me and affirmed that to me.
Yeah.
But I still have this like internal little niggling at the back of my head where it's like, oh, is that just a bit weird to be posting like these reels on my Instagram?
Oh, I think that's so normal though. But yeah, it's all that just past conditioning, that it's great that you can like observe that you're having that thought and then choose again. I think that's so powerful.
I think I've only just got into that kind of recently though. I've definitely in the past it was not that way. Like I would be so in my own head about it.
Well, me too.
Like especially way back when, like this was when I was at uni even. Like I would be it was one of my really good friends, and if she's listening to this podcast she'll know who she is. But she was the one who like, she was like, oh, she's my YouTube friend.
Oh,
she's my YouTube
I love
friend.
that.
And she was like, she would wear it like a badge of honor and just be so proud of the fact that it was so cute. And like even back then I didn't have many YouTube videos. They were all like makeup-y ones, and like they were getting like 5 views each.
Gotta start somewhere.
But like, yeah, you gotta start somewhere. But like it was just really cute because when she found that out, she was just so lovely to me about it, and it was just the most empowering thing. And I think that's so lovely when you can find like friendships like that are just empowering.
Yeah, that's so special. Yeah,
so special.
The final step, well, actually, I don't know. It's not really like a step-by-step process like this. It's got to be like a constant thing that you're working on. Like you've got to do the work, but just practice. Yeah, noticing those thoughts and those sort of false beliefs that come up as like in real time sort of thing as you're interacting with other women, and just practice pushing your comfort zone and pushing through anyway in spite of those limiting beliefs, and practice being vulnerable with women and sharing what's on your heart, and like lifting other women up in spite of all those thoughts that might be holding you back. And that's you know, obviously that's easier said than done, but the more you practice, the easier it gets. Yeah. And one more bonus tip for sister wound healing is, and I can't remember where I read this, but is to see those women that you're jealous of or you're judgmental of as your expanders. Like instead of being jealous of them, think they're showing you what is possible and what you can achieve as well. Now that you've seen it, you know it can be done.
I love that. That's like, see them as your motivation. Like whenever I see Alice's TikToks, I'm like, oh my god, she's so cool.
No,
like no, literally, I'm like, she has this like just positive energy about her. And like, do you know what my mum said the other day? That you came up on her For You page, and she was like, that's so cute. Oh, and it was really sweet. And like, but whenever I see your like videos and stuff, I'm like, oh, it inspires me.
Aww.
No, but it really does.
And same to you.
Like, oh god, we're getting all sloppy
now,
here.
let's not cry on the podcast.
But like, it's just so nice to have those friendships where like you build each other up, where like a lot of the time I feel like a lot of people would be like just trying to push each other down. I don't know. It's like there's this really, like you say, it's ingrained in us from like,
it's not our fault. It's the part we get to play is bringing awareness to it and slowly starting to heal it. So yeah, now that we've covered a little bit about the sister wound and how we can work to start healing that a little bit within us, I think we should talk about some tips on how to actually practically make friends as an adult, especially with women.
And to like get a good gauge of like the kind of friends you want to make and like how you want those friendships to kind of, I don't want to say benefit you, but like there's this thing where it's like you become the people you surround yourself with.
It's like you're the product of the 5 people you're closest to or something. Yeah.
And it's like we can't help that, and if you can, sounds bad, but like curate the people who you spend your time with to be those people that will bring you up and inspire you. That's always going to be a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the first step really in, if you're looking to make more friends, is to get really clear on what it is you want out of the friendship. And that sounds like selfish, but you the kind of friend you want to have, the qualities that you want your friend to have, you know, do they need to be, you know, a good listener? Do they need to be, you know, do you want them to have the same interests as you, or to have sort of other interests that can open you up to other things? Or whatever qualities you're looking for, get really clear on that. Write them down. It's all part of manifesting.
Love it.
And then, so once you've got really clear on those qualities that you are looking for in a friend, you need to be that yourself. Like, you can't expect to attract this tribe of friends that has all these qualities that you're looking for if you're not that kind of friend yourself. Like you need, it's, you know, it's a two-way street. You've got to reciprocate that. So when you're putting out that energy, it will be a lot easier for you to attract that same energy of people with the qualities of a friend that you're looking for.
Like say you want to have like a running friend, like say you want to have a running friend and you want to go on runs together and stuff, but you don't run.
It's gonna be an issue.
That's not gonna work. So you just have to put out the energy of like, I'm gonna go on these runs, I'm gonna go to a run club, I'm gonna go to all these things, and you just putting out that particular vibe of what you want. Like go to these places that you want to meet people at that have those qualities. And it does sound weird to say like, oh, I'm looking for this quality in a friend, but if you look for qualities, like you should have it in any relationship that you have. Like, it should be any kind of, whether that's a friendship relationship, a romantic relationship, you should be looking for qualities in people that bring you up and wanting to spend time with people because of that. I don't know, I feel like it's so important in every single aspect of your life.
Definitely. And I think even qualities like basic qualities like being a good listener and like open communication, like that's something that I have had to relearn. And like I think a lot of us do this, and like we're so in our heads that like we're not actually listening to what the other person is saying, and we're just thinking of what to say next. And that's something I've really been working on recently, is like active listening, really just giving the other person space to say their full thing and really just being present with that, not thinking about what happens next, what to say next. So yeah, if that's a quality you're looking for in a friend, then, you know, just start working on that quality within yourself, and then naturally you will draw those kind of people towards you.
I think you spoke about it before, like the spotlight effect, right? Like everyone's only really thinking about themselves, where it's like, it's very like internalized. But yeah, no, that's a good thing. That's something I need to work on. I think there was one time where I was texting Alice after one of the podcast episodes. I was like, Alice, I'm so annoying. I'm so sorry. And I think that was a whole nother topic that we're going to talk about in a minute, like why I was feeling that way. But like, it's just, yeah, definitely something I need to work on.
We all do it.
We all do it.
I mean, I've just done it now.
No, but I feel like it's a nice, like, we like the chatty vibes here.
Yeah, and I think it's because we're so passionate about what we're talking about that we're just like trying to jump in.
No, it's so good. I love it. Like, where do you meet these people? Like, I go to work, I go home, and like that's it. Like, what am I, like, how do you make, like, where?
Yeah, that's such a common thing, especially living in a city, being really busy, having a 9-to-5 job. It's hard, but you have to carve out the time to put yourself in those spaces to meet like-minded people. So like any activity that you want to try out, maybe it's a dance class, maybe it's just running, joining a running club, or even just like hanging out at the park where there's like if you've got a dog and there's other like dog walkers. And just the important thing about that is to not go into those spaces with your head down, headphones on, baseball cap down. It's the open body language, be open and smiley, and like let people know that you are open to having a chat. Yeah, they don't have to be your best friend, but just kind of like keeping all your doors open. My dad always talks about this, like keeping as many doors as you can open, and just, you don't know what's going to come out of them. Like, even if you just like you meet someone and you really hit it off, and then you go out for dinner with them, even if it's just once, like that's still a door that you've opened, and you've sort of experienced that other person and seeing like how your connection is. And even if it goes nowhere, that's great experience for like building relationships with women and stuff.
And it can literally just be like from anywhere. Like, you can have a random chat with like a barista, and say, for example, if you keep going to the same, this is something I learned on Emma's podcast, I was listening to it today, Emma Chamberlain. She was saying that like, if you just go to the same places like over and over again, and you just like friendly chat with the barista, and like you said about the body language, being open, friendly, like, hey, how are you today? The worst they could do is reject you if you say like, oh, hey, would you want to hang out sometime? Might sound a bit weird, but if you go to these places and you meet the same people again, you can end up meeting friends and making friends. Like, I used to go to Barry's, I'm now obsessed with SoulCycle, but I went to Barry's for ages, and there was this girl there who I would see, we would always go to the same classes every single week, and I'm like this crazy person who has to be early for everything, like I hate being late, so I would always be there like 10 minutes outside before. This girl would always be there as well, and one day I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna go up and talk to her and like make friends. And now we haven't spoken really properly since, but like we followed each other on Instagram, and like it's just those little spaces where you can just like repeatedly meet the same people, and then they see you again and again, and they're like, oh, they kind of recognize you, and then it's not so weird just to randomly go up to them one day and be like, hi.
That's so good. Like say, like keeping all those doors open, just seeing, following every opportunity and seeing where it takes you, because you never know where it takes you. It could take you nowhere, but it could lead to a really good friendship. I do think that like it is hard to put yourself out there. Like a lot of us, all of us, it's natural to feel that fear when you're putting yourself on the line, because you could get rejected. But
rejection hurts.
Yeah. but what you've got to think of is that like what's the worst case scenario? They say no. And like, that will hurt for a bit, but it's part of like it's part of growing, is pushing your comfort zone in that way. You don't really get any sort of these big benefits in life unless you push your comfort zone, unless you do the scary thing. And every time you do it, it'll feel a little bit less scary. Like, I used to think of myself as a shy girl. I had this mental, even still now, I kind of say, oh, I feel like I'm shy. I'm a shy girl. But like, actually, in the past like couple of years, I have gone to so many events solo. I've made so many friends just by being open and smiley and just having a chat. And like, what's the worst that can happen? You never have to see them again. If you make a complete fool of yourself, you never have to see them again. Like, I went to a sober rave last year, and like, I met this girl, Ivy, if you're listening. Hi, Ivy. And like, we met literally once, and it was like we were besties. Like, well, no, that's lame. If just see me trying not to come on too strong then. Yeah, we met literally once, and we just really, really hit it off. And then she moved home to Canada for a bit, and then she's just come back. I think I told you about this. And then she messaged me to go, do you want to go to a dance class? Aww. And so we met up.
Like, is she here now?
She's back here now. She's just got back. And yeah, we just met up and went to a dance class, and it was amazing. And we just talked for hours, and it just, we really like have a lot of shared interests and a lot of shared passions. Nice. And it's just, there was no ego in that interaction. It was like, you know, just really authentic like connection with another woman. Like,
trying to find that friendship. Oh, I love that.
And like, I wouldn't have found that connection if I'd have A, not gone to this sober dance that I went to, and B, just gone and sort of hope no one would speak to me, and just kind
of like going solo, because if you hadn't gone to that place solo, if you'd gone, say for example with me, say you'd taken me there, you probably would have been quite easy for you and I just to stand in a corner and like be there, like doing our own thing.
That's so true.
Whereas if you'd got, like, because you went on your own, you were kind of almost forced into that situation where you're like, you had to make friends.
Yeah, it's really, it's scary, but going solo really it's really putting yourself out there, and it does force you to be open, because, you know, if not, you're literally just like standing there like staring at the wall. Like, you have to do it. And yeah, it is really scary, especially the first time you do it, but every time you do it, it'll get a little bit easier. That's for me, I think is probably the easiest way to sort of start those connections. But I do think it's worth saying that, yeah, it's one thing to actually start those connections and meet those people. It's another thing to follow up on it. That's where I think a lot of us fall short, because we're all so busy. We've all got these different schedules. We're all from different walks of life, blah, blah, blah. Like I say, we don't have that common thread. Like, you can meet up with these girls or this one girl or whatever and say, this was amazing, we need to do this again. So many times this has happened to me. And then just nothing comes of it. It's really, you need to really be proactive in like doing another message, like, oh yeah, I had so much fun, you know, are you free next week or whenever, or let's go get coffee this place or whatever.
I think it's important not to feel deflated if they then ghost you, because like, I feel like that's happened to me before, where I've like messaged someone and it's like, oh, okay, like they've not messaged back, but it's like, okay, they don't message back, fine. What's the big deal? Like, kind of thing.
It's not personal, like it's nothing to do with, oh, like you could easily take that as like reaffirming that old belief of, oh, maybe I am weird, oh god, maybe I am annoying, blah blah blah. But it's nothing to do with that. Like, you know, you need to get to that place of confidence where you know that like you are a great person, you're fun to be around, and they enjoyed it. It's just that they are too busy, or they themselves are too scared, or whatever it is, or they've got some sister wound healing to do. Like, it's never actually personal. Like, it doesn't have to be such a big deal if they don't get back to you.
I think it is hard, like, not to feel deflated when someone doesn't get back to you, or like if someone's not wanting to meet up with you. Like, it's hard, but you've got to not let that impact your whole view of like female friendship, basically. Because I feel like a lot of us have this idea of like a best friend.
Oh my god, yes.
Like,
yes,
that's such like a childhood belief, and I'm not saying that it's like, I'm sure there's loads of people who have like got these best friends and it's great, but like, it's just, I mean, for me personally, I have lots of best friends. Like, I have loads of like friends, and they're all for different parts of, like, I have different friends for different reasons, essentially. Like, it sounds odd, but like, there is this mentality of people to be like, oh, there's this, they've got to be my one friend for everything and everything, but it's you don't have to have that all of the time.
That's so true.
Don't quite know where I was going with that.
No, I totally agree with that. Up until very recently, thought like, why don't I really have a best girlfriend or like whatever. I just never really felt super close to any. Well, in school, like you say, it's naturally
because you're kind of forced into that, like, not forced, I keep saying forced like it's a bad thing, but like you have these like friendships where you're seeing each other every single day.
Yeah, it's different. It's natural to be closer to people when you are in such close proximity to them all the time. But yeah, I think, yeah, and also like watching movies where like they've always got the BFF, and I always was like, why don't I have that? Or like a really close group of girls. But actually, like, I don't think any of us really do. Like, maybe some people are really, really lucky and they have like, they've met their soul tribe and they're just like, they feel so aligned and they're like, pretty much the same person and all that. But I think really a lot of people do kind of feel like they struggle to connect. And like, I remember talking to you, I think we went to dinner like one night, I don't know, it was maybe in like February or March, when I was feeling a bit like sort of lonely, like I didn't have, I was just in this weird era.
No, I think I remember the night, yeah.
And I was like, you know, do you have someone that you're like texting all the time and blah blah blah, like all of these things, like hanging out with all the time? And you were like, no, I don't think that's how adult friendships work.
No, it's not like. And then I remember saying to you, like a couple of months later, you are the person I text the most. Yeah. And we don't even text that really much.
No.
Like in reality, like there is such this misconception that you have to be texting someone and be best friends and be in contact with them all the time. And I actually think, if anything, that's more, not toxic, but it's almost worse, because then when you do meet up and you do talk to these people, you don't really have anything to talk about.
That's so true, yeah.
Like, I love meeting up with some of my best like girlfriends and be like, oh, so how is this? Like, tell me everything about your job, your relationships, everything, and like have a proper catch up.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be in constant communication with people all the time.
I think that is definitely, you're right. It's a misconception that like, in order to be close to someone, you have to like be in each other's pockets. You have to be like hanging out every night and texting all the time and like basically be the same person. But like, yeah, that's just not really
how not the way it works.
A, who has the time for that?
Literally.
And B, the best friendships, I think, are the ones where like you, even if you haven't seen each other for months, you see each other again and you pick right up where you left off. Like
nothing's ever happened.
Exactly.
Oh. So we just had a friend come from Australia, and when did she come? It was
like April
kind of time, and I've not seen her years.
Yeah.
Was it pre-COVID?
It was definitely pre-COVID. Yeah, she moved to Australia before COVID.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So like, and she came here, and the three of us all like sat here, and we went through her entire camera roll pretty much, and just like caught up on her life, and it was like no time had passed. It was really odd.
Crazy. Like all that changed is that now she has an Australian accent.
No, Cleo.
No, Cleo, get away from the water. Yeah, and I think those friendships are so precious. Like, you don't have to be seeing each other and talking all the time to count as being a close friend. So it all comes down to, getting clear on the kind of values that you want in a friend, being that already.
Yeah.
And putting yourself out there. That's the scary part. Putting yourself out there, maybe going places alone, doing things you've always wanted to do, and being open, and just keeping those doors open, keep knocking on those doors, because the worst thing that can happen is they say no. And then, making sure that you do put some effort into following up. So I think a good way to finish this episode would be just to think about like how the female friendships are currently in our life. How would you say they are for you in this era of your life?
I would say it's really interesting, because in London, I feel like it's really easy. Like, London is a great place to make friends. I know a lot of people say sometimes London can be a bit lonely because it's like hustle and bustle and everyone's already got their friendships. But London's so good, because I feel like going to the pub and like everyone will just bring their random friends along, and then you can meet so many new people. And like we were saying before, it's not just those kind of cliques that you had in school or cliques that you had in uni. People will just invite whoever, like, oh, this is my friend from uni, this is my cousin, this is my this is whatever. And I love that about London. And I feel like you don't really get that somewhere else. I don't know, like I feel like that's in this certain era, I guess, of the life. Like, I love that. That's what I love about London. Like, my friend was telling me that the other day, and I was like, do you know what, I completely agree. What would you say? What about you? How would you define your friendships?
I think the way I view friendships, particularly female friendships, has changed so much in the past year. Since I swore off boys for the foreseeable future, I'm in my no boy era. And then,
healing era.
Yeah, my healing era, and that means not even like no dating apps, nothing, no
dating apps.
Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other separate.
yeah, since then I've completely transformed the way I look at friendships. Like, yeah, working on healing the sister wound, and now like I get so much out of my friendships with my girlfriends, like more than I ever thought was possible. Like, I don't know, I think I was the kind of girl who, when I got into relationships, I would kind of like withdraw from friendships a little bit, like,
and just like focus on that one person solely.
Yeah,
I would do that as well.
And now, like, I just know my friendships feel so much richer now. Like, I don't know, there's just so much value to be found in.
It's free therapy.
For sure. And like, yeah, like having that authentic connection and that open communication. I think like now I've learned to be a bit more vulnerable with people, and like, yeah, I just love having those deep conversations, those soul healing chats that like, especially I think like it hits different when you're like talking to another woman. Like, yeah, she just gets it.
It just gets it.
And yeah, I'm just absolutely loving where I'm at with all my friendships in my life right now. I've got like a lot of different avenues. Like, it's not just, you know, my uni lot. It's all the people I've met since going sober and going to sober events, or just other, like random people that I've met and like managed to keep in touch with.
I love that.
And so yeah, it's like keeping all the different doors open and like just getting like a rich range of experience.
You're inspiring me now to make like more friends. Like, it sounds really weird, but like I have my girls like who I'm friends with, in terms of like I've got my school friends, I've got you, I've got people, but like I want to go out and like make, like you said you've got friends like since you're going sober, and I'm like, I want friends like that. Like I'm gonna, you've inspired me now. I'm gonna go like seek out those friendships that I want. I don't know. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, you got to make the opportunities happen. You got to put yourself out there. Yes, and on that note, I have a final tip for making friends, especially if you live in London. Well, I think probably any city has these, but there's Facebook
major
groups.
Cities,
any major cities, they have, you know, Facebook groups. So there's one called the London Lonely Girls Club. Oh. And like, initially, like, that could put you off and be like, oh god, cringe, I don't want to identify as a lonely person. Oh no, that's so embarrassing. But then you realise that like there are thousands of girls in this group.
No one's lonely at
like,
that point.
Yeah, and also, but it validates you because so many people are feeling this way. So many people are seeking more connections and finding it hard to make friends, especially in a city like London. It's so vast. Like, and so, yeah, I think those sort of communities can be so helpful. Like, I've met some lovely girls through that Facebook group.
There's also, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be one called, like, like the Lonely Girls Society or whatever. It can be, like, literally join one for, like, a running club.
Yeah.
Like, join one for, like, there are certain ones where, like, I think there was one where girls wanted to go, like, pottery painting and stuff. And, like, just...
That sounds great.
I know, I want to go. But, like, there's just, like, loads of these different, like... so much stuff going through social media, so much stuff on your phone that you can just find literally anything. Like we were talking about the connections that you want to make, what do you want out of a friendship? There's going to be a Facebook group or an Instagram community full of people who like the same thing as you, so just go seek them out. I definitely think we are lucky to live in this era where we've got social media at our fingertips. It's so easy to make those connections. The hard part is then actually following up on it and actually putting in the action to go and meet up with them and all of that. But go for it. Make those friends.
Live your best life.
I love that. One thing I wanted to ask you guys, please, if you don't mind, is to leave us a little review if you listen to the full thing. I mean, the good, the bad, the ugly, like, I mean, please be nice.
We're, like, within reason.
Within reason, like, constructive feedback is always welcome. But yeah, just leave us a review. It'd really help us out. And yeah, if you want to hear some more from us, obviously follow us on Flourish and Thrive Pod, on Instagram, Facebook. Ooh, Facebook. Why did I say Facebook? We don't have Facebook yet, but we'll make a Facebook page now.
MySpace, Bebo.
Instagram. I'm about to say Twitter.
Tumblr.
Can you do, please?
I'm
keeping this in there.
Yeah, if you want to keep up to date with what we're talking about, what our next episode is going to be... No, that's not what we do. I don't know what we do.
Please follow us, Flourish and Thrive Pod, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.
Yes. And if you have any recommendations for what we should talk about next, if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer,
let us know.
Slide into our DMs.
We
love to hear from you.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you if you got to the end of this, and hopefully we'll see or hear / from you in our next one.
Bye guys.
Bye.